The sky shattered like broken glass, each fragment revealing a nightmare beyond comprehension. 12 massive obsidian ships descended over major cities worldwide, their silhouettes blocking out the sun and casting an eternal shadow of doom. In Geneva, Dr. Kira Novak watched through the reinforced windows of the International Research Center as the first alien vessel touched down. Impossibly silent for its size, the ship resembled a giant metallic teardrop, its surface shifting with an almost liquid precision that defied human understanding of technology. "They're not here to communicate," she whispered to her colleague, Dr. Wei Chen, who stood frozen beside her. The global communication networks had gone dark moments after the ships appeared, leaving humanity in a terrifying silence broken only by distant explosions and the low, subsonic hum of the alien vessels. Governments had no time to respond. Military installations worldwide were neutralized within minutes, not through conventional weapons, but through a sophisticated electromagnetic pulse that rendered every electronic system instantly useless. Tanks became paperweights. Jets fell from the sky like wounded birds. Communication systems collapsed into static. The aliens, later identified through fragmented communications as the Vornax, moved with calculated precision. They didn't destroy everything. Instead, they systematically dismantled human infrastructure, cutting power grids, destroying transportation networks, and isolating population centers. It was a surgical strike of unprecedented scale. Kira's fingers flew across a manual communication device, an old radio system she had modified to bypass electronic disruption. "Confirm visual," she muttered, recording every detail of the invasion. Her scientific mind was already analyzing, categorizing, searching for patterns. Suddenly, a strange detail caught her attention. The alien ships, for all their technological superiority, seemed almost hesitant. Their movements were precise but contained, as if following strict protocols. Something wasn't adding up. As another explosion rippled through the distant cityscape, a small drone, cobbled together from salvaged parts, began transmitting a signal. Most would have seen it as meaningless noise. But Kira recognized it immediately, a pattern, a code, hidden within the chaos. The invasion had begun. But humanity's true response was just taking shape, a response no alien civilization could have ever anticipated. Something was coming. Something unexpected. 3 days after the initial invasion, the world had transformed into a landscape of survival and silent rebellion. In an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Chicago, a makeshift command center hummed with desperate energy. Kira Novak stood alongside a ragtag group of survivors, each bringing a unique skill that would prove crucial to humanity's survival. To her left, Dax Rodriguez, a former cybersecurity expert turned improvised communication specialist, hunched over a collection of modified radio equipment. His fingers danced across jury-rigged circuit boards, creating a communication network that the Vornax electromagnetic pulse couldn't fully disrupt. "They're using a quantum-based communication frequency," Dax muttered, his eyes reflecting the soft glow of makeshift screens. "But every system has a weakness. We just need to find the right backdoor." Nearby, Asha Kapoor, an engineer who had been working on experimental adaptive materials before the invasion, was dismantling alien tech recovered from a fallen drone. Her hands moved with precision, mapping out the intricate technology that had seemed so insurmountable just days ago. "Their shielding is remarkable," Asha commented, holding up a fragment of alien metal. "But not impenetrable. Look here, there's a molecular inconsistency in the energy distribution matrix. It's subtle, but it's a vulnerability." The group had quickly realized that the Vornax, for all their technological superiority, operated on a fundamentally different understanding of conflict. They expected straightforward resistance, military confrontation, direct technological countermeasures. Instead, humanity was doing something entirely unexpected, adapting. Outside the tunnel, small resistance groups were emerging in every major city. In Tokyo, a network of hackers was developing signal jamming techniques. In Rio de Janeiro, engineers were reverse engineering captured alien communication devices. In Cairo, a group of scientists was studying the alien technology's thermal signatures, looking for weaknesses. The Vornax had anticipated a conventional war. They had not anticipated a global, decentralized network of human ingenuity. Kira's radio crackled to life. The small drone she had launched during the initial invasion was transmitting data. The coded message revealed something extraordinary. The aliens were tracking specific electromagnetic signatures, which meant they had a critical limitation in their scanning capabilities. "We're not just targets," Dax said, a spark of hope breaking through his exhausted expression. "We're a puzzle they can't solve." A distant explosion punctuated his statement. The Vornax were still hunting, still destroying. But with each passing hour, humanity was learning, adapting, preparing. Asha held up a modified piece of alien technology. "We're going to turn their own weapons against them," she declared. It wasn't a boast. It was a promise. In the depths of that subway tunnel, something was taking shape, a resistance more complex and unpredictable than any alien civilization could have anticipated. Humanity was no longer just fighting. They were evolving. Deep within a converted research facility in the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Kira Novak made a discovery that would change everything. The alien technology they had been studying revealed more than just mechanical vulnerabilities. It exposed a fundamental misunderstanding of intelligence itself. Asha Kapoor leaned over the analysis, her eyes wide with disbelief. "The Vornax have a critical flaw in their cognitive processing," she explained, pointing to a complex holographic representation of alien neural networks. "They operate on pure logical algorithms. They cannot comprehend emotional complexity." The breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. During their analysis of captured alien communication devices, Dax Rodriguez had noticed something peculiar. The Vornax communication systems broke down when exposed to highly emotional or seemingly irrational human interactions. "It's like their entire system is designed to predict and control," Dax explained. "But human emotion? Creativity? Unpredictability? That's something their algorithms can't process." They discovered that human emotional intelligence, something the Vornax had considered a weakness, was actually their most powerful weapon. The aliens had studied humanity's technological capabilities, military might, and physical limitations. But they had completely misunderstood the human spirit. In a small underground facility in Buenos Aires, a group of psychologists and neuroscientists were developing something unprecedented. Led by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, they were creating what they called emotional interference protocols, methods of communication and resistance that defied logical prediction. "The Vornax see patterns," Elena explained to her team. "We're going to give them chaos. Pure, beautiful human chaos." Their first test came unexpectedly. A Vornax reconnaissance team approached a seemingly abandoned research center in the Andes. Instead of finding a straightforward resistance, they encountered something entirely incomprehensible. As the alien sensors probed the facility, they encountered a series of interconnected emotional triggers. Recordings of human experiences, moments of profound joy, deep sorrow, unexpected love, and inexplicable hope, created a communication matrix that the alien systems couldn't decode. The Vornax observers became trapped in a cognitive loop, their advanced processing systems unable to categorize or predict the emotional complexity they were experiencing. It was like showing a calculator the concept of poetry, something fundamentally beyond its programming. Kira watched the initial test results with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "They've been studying us for months," she whispered to Dax. "But they never understood the one thing that makes humanity unique." "Emotion," Dax replied. "Pure, uncontrollable, beautiful emotion." Across the globe, resistance groups began to implement similar strategies. In Tokyo, hackers created emotional feedback loops that scrambled alien communication networks. In Cairo, artists and musicians developed sound frequencies that disrupted alien scanning technologies. The Vornax had come expecting a conventional war. Instead, they found themselves fighting against something they could never understand, the human heart. As night fell over the mountain research facility, Kira looked at the holographic display of alien technology. For the first time since the invasion began, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were rewriting the very definition of intelligence. 2 weeks into the invasion, humanity underwent a transformation more profound than any alien civilization could have predicted. The world that had once been divided by borders, ideologies, and conflicts now moved as a single, interconnected organism. In a repurposed underground bunker that once served as an international conference center, representatives from every corner of the globe gathered. Nations that had been bitter enemies mere weeks ago now shared a single purpose. China worked alongside the United States. Russia collaborated with Ukraine. Old rivalries dissolved in the face of an existential threat. Dr. Kira Novak stood at the center of this remarkable gathering, her research on emotional interference becoming the cornerstone of humanity's defense strategy. Beside her, Dax Rodriguez projected a holographic map showing the global resistance network, a web of communication and innovation that spanned continents. "We're not just fighting," Dax explained to the assembled leaders, "we're evolving our entire approach to conflict and survival." The emotional interference protocols developed by Dr. Elena Rodriguez had proven more effective than anyone could have imagined. Resistance groups worldwide were no longer trying to match the Vornax technologically. Instead, they were exploiting the aliens' fundamental inability to understand human complexity. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous communities who had preserved ancient communication techniques became crucial strategic partners. Their deep understanding of nonverbal communication and emotional resonance provided unique insights into disrupting alien scanning technologies. A team of marine biologists in New Zealand discovered that the complex social structures of dolphins could be adapted into communication interference patterns. In the high-altitude research stations of Tibet, monks who had spent decades studying consciousness provided breakthrough insights into cognitive resilience. Asha Kapoor's materials research team had begun producing adaptive camouflage that responded to human emotional states, making resistance fighters virtually undetectable to alien scanning technologies. It was a perfect fusion of cutting-edge science and human intuition. The Vornax, for the first time, showed signs of confusion. Their systematic approach to planetary conquest was being undermined by something they could not quantify or predict. Every time they thought they had identified a pattern, humanity shifted, unpredictable, fluid, impossible to categorize. "They're learning to fear us," whispered Elena Rodriguez, watching the global communication networks light up with coordinated resistance efforts. "Not because of our weapons, but because of our spirit." A young communication specialist from Kenya shared a breakthrough. They had developed a communication protocol that used human storytelling as a form of tactical encryption. Personal narratives, emotional experiences, and cultural memories became an unbreakable code that the Vornax could not penetrate. In the mountains of Peru, a group of computer scientists and traditional weavers created communication textiles that carried messages through intricate patterns, a method that completely bypassed electronic detection. The invasion had revealed humanity's true potential. Not as a collection of separate nations, but as a single, interconnected species capable of unprecedented adaptation. As the global strategy meeting continued, Kira realized something profound. The Vornax hadn't just underestimated human technology. They had fundamentally misunderstood what it meant to be human. And that misunderstanding would become their greatest weakness. The moment of ultimate confrontation arrived without warning. 12 massive Vornax motherships converged over the Pacific, forming a geometric pattern that blotted out the sun. Their combined energy signature could have obliterated entire continents with a single synchronized pulse. Humanity's resistance had pushed the aliens to their final, most devastating option. Dr. Kira Novak watched from a hidden mountain command center as the alien vessels began charging an unprecedented weapon. Electromagnetic readings spiked across every monitoring system. This was going to be a strike unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. "They're preparing total planetary neutralization," Dax Rodriguez muttered, his fingers flying across multiple communication interfaces. The global network of resistance fighters was about to face its ultimate test. What the Vornax didn't realize was that humanity had been preparing for precisely this moment. The emotional interference protocols developed by Dr. Elena Rodriguez were about to be deployed on a scale never before imagined. Every resistance group, every modified communication network, every innovative defense mechanism was now synchronized into a single, complex organism of human resistance. In Tokyo, a network of artists and musicians began broadcasting a carefully constructed emotional frequency, a combination of sounds and psychological triggers designed to create maximum cognitive disruption. In the Andes, indigenous communication experts prepared intricate emotional transmission patterns that would cascade through the alien communication networks. Asha Kapoor's adaptive material research had produced something extraordinary, a global network of quantum-entangled communication nodes that could transmit information through pure emotional resonance. These weren't just communication devices, they were living, breathing extensions of human consciousness. The Vornax weapon began to charge. Energy readings suggested imminent total planetary destruction. But humanity had other plans. As the alien vessels synchronized their attack, something unprecedented happened. Instead of a straightforward technological counterattack, humanity unleashed a wave of pure, unquantifiable emotional complexity. Personal stories from millions of individuals, moments of love, loss, hope, and resilience, began broadcasting simultaneously across every possible frequency. It wasn't just information. It was pure human experience, transmitted in a way no logical system could process or predict. The alien weapon faltered. The Vornax communication networks began to collapse, overwhelmed by something they had no framework to understand. Their perfectly calculated invasion strategy was drowning in a sea of human unpredictability. "They can't comprehend us," Elena Rodriguez said, watching the global transmission patterns. "We're not just fighting. We're revealing the true nature of intelligence." Kira watched in awe as the alien ships began to destabilize. Their rigid, logic-based systems were breaking down when confronted with the messy, beautiful complexity of human emotion. This wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental challenge to the Vornax understanding of consciousness itself. The sky above the Pacific began to shift. 12 massive alien vessels, symbols of technological superiority, started to drift, their precise formations dissolving into chaos. Humanity had found its ultimate weapon. And it was nothing like anyone could have predicted. The world held its breath. In the aftermath of the Pacific confrontation, the Vornax retreated, but not in defeat. They regrouped, recalculated, and prepared for what they believed would be their ultimate, most devastating assault. Dr. Kira Novak knew this was the breaking point. The resistance had shown its strength, but the aliens were far from defeated. Their technological superiority was still overwhelming. Humanity's survival hung by the thinnest of threads. Hidden in a converted underground research facility, Kira, Dax Rodriguez, Asha Kapoor, and Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked with a global network of the most brilliant minds humanity could muster. They were no longer just fighting an invasion. They were fighting for the very definition of intelligence. "They're analyzing our emotional interference," Dax reported, his eyes scanning multiple holographic displays. "But they're learning. Adapting." The Vornax had begun to develop counter-strategies. They were studying human emotional patterns, attempting to create algorithmic responses to the complex transmission networks that had disrupted their initial invasion. Asha revealed a disturbing discovery. "They're not just trying to defeat us. They're trying to understand us, to weaponize our own emotional complexity against us. The next phase of the invasion would be far more dangerous. The Vornax were no longer approaching humanity as a simple technological problem to be solved. They were treating humans as a complex system to be deciphered and ultimately controlled. In remote locations around the globe, resistance groups prepared for what might be humanity's final stand. The Amazon rainforest became a hub of unconventional warfare. Indigenous communities worked alongside quantum physicists, creating communication networks that blended ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science. A team of neuroscientists in Cape Town discovered something extraordinary. The human brain's capacity for empathy, long considered a soft, inefficient trait, was actually a sophisticated information processing system that the Vornax could not replicate. Empathy is more than an emotion, Elena explained to the Global Resistance Council. It's a form of intelligence that allows us to understand complex systems through emotional resonance. The Vornax can calculate. We can connect. The invasion entered its most critical phase. The Vornax began targeting the emotional transmission networks, attempting to create psychological warfare technologies that could disrupt human communication. But humanity had one final, unexpected weapon. As the alien forces prepared their most sophisticated attack, resistance groups around the world began sharing something more powerful than technology. They shared stories. Personal experiences. The collective memory of human survival. From the mountains of Tibet to the urban centers of Shanghai, from the deserts of Australia to the forests of Canada, humans began to weave a tapestry of collective consciousness that defied all technological understanding. The Vornax weapon began to charge. But this time, humanity was ready. "We are not just fighting," Kira whispered, watching the global resistance network pulse with an energy no alien technology could measure. "We are revealing the true nature of intelligence." The sky darkened. The alien ships assembled. And humanity stood united, not with weapons, but with something far more powerful. The final confrontation was about to begin. The final moments of the invasion would be remembered not as a battle, but as a revelation. As the Vornax prepared their most devastating assault, humanity did something entirely unexpected. Instead of mounting a traditional defense, they opened themselves completely, becoming something more than a collection of individuals, more than a single species. Dr. Kira Novak stood at the center of a global network that transcended physical boundaries. The emotional transmission protocols they had developed became something far more profound, a collective consciousness that transformed human potential. The Vornax weapon approached, its technological precision a stark contrast to the messy, unpredictable nature of human connection. But precision, they would learn, was not the same as true intelligence. Across the planet, millions of individual experiences began to interweave. A child's first steps in Mumbai. An elder's wisdom in the Andes. A moment of compassion in a war-torn city. A scientist's breakthrough. A musician's melody. Each story, each emotion became a thread in a tapestry of collective human experience. The alien technology began to falter. What the Vornax had perceived as weakness, human emotion, individual variation, the capacity for empathy, revealed itself as the most sophisticated form of intelligence in the universe. They had studied humanity's technology, its physical capabilities, its apparent limitations. But they had never understood its true nature. Humanity was not a collection of individuals. It was a living, breathing, evolving organism of consciousness. The invasion ended not with a spectacular explosion, but with a profound moment of understanding. The Vornax communication systems collapsed, overwhelmed by the complexity of human emotional intelligence. Their technological superiority crumbled against something they could never quantify or control. In the research facility, Dax Rodriguez looked at Kira with a mixture of wonder and understanding. "We didn't just defend ourselves," he said. "We showed them what true intelligence looks like." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had spent years studying human consciousness, smiled. Intelligence is not about calculation, she explained. It's about connection. Adaptation. Understanding. The alien ships began to retreat, their precise formations dissolving like mist. They had come to conquer, but instead, they had been taught a lesson about the nature of consciousness itself. As the last alien vessel disappeared from Earth's atmosphere, humanity emerged changed. The divisions that had once seemed so important, national borders, cultural differences, economic disparities, had been transformed. They had discovered something more powerful than any technology. They had discovered each other.